I'd like to welcome everybody to the special meeting of Council on October 5th, 2022, and call the meeting to order. Also, I'd like to offer apologies for Mayor Prokop and Councillor Sorensen due to prior commitments. They are unable to attend tonight's special council meeting. And with that, I would ask for an adoption of the agenda. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And moving right on down to delegations. Before we begin the delegations, I'll just remind everybody that typically delegations are a 10 to 15 minute presentation. And if when you come up to the microphone, you could hit the button to turn it on so we can all hear you and everybody at home. And also introduce yourself and the organization that you're representing. Thank you. Mr. Tebow.
So I hope I don't butcher people's names. We'll start at item 8.1, Chinook Arch Regional Library System, and the name I have is Robin Heffer. Will be presenting. Awesome. Thanks. Come on up.
Actually, if somebody traced my family tree, and if you go back far enough, like in the 1600s, it was spelled H-E-I-F-E-R. They decided, I guess, that it was not cool and changed the spelling. So thank you, Madam Chair and members of Council for having me this evening. I'm pleased to present just an update on Chinook Arch Regional Library System, which is a member-driven organization of which Town of Taber is a part. And so the purpose of my visit is purely informational, just to let you know what Chinook Arch is and how we fit into your local library service, and update you on some of our activities that we've been doing over the last 4 years or so since I was last here. Congrats on your nicely renovated council chambers, by the way. It looks great. So my name is Robin Heffer. I've been with Chinook Arch since 2007. I'm a librarian by profession, and I feel really privileged to be working in the public library sector in southwestern Alberta. I think we have a really fantastic group of libraries and a really fantastic and collaborative library system. So the purpose is just to kind of let you know how that all works. And I'm not sure if you have a PowerPoint, if my assistant sent a PowerPoint, or...
So if you grab the mouse there, you can actually control the screen, and you slide down on the right-hand side. Just scroll down.
Oh, okay.
You'll be able to walk us through what you want when you want.
Okay, sure. So it looks like maybe what you have here is the memo that we sent out just recently about our proposed, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit, maybe, about our proposed levy schedule for 2023 through 2026, and I'll actually address that later in my presentation, but in the folders I've given you, there is a copy of the PowerPoint, just to kind of give you a little bit of a background on Chinook Arch before we get to the actual budget things. So if you want to follow along, it's just a little piece of paper that looks like this. Some of the printing is going to be pretty small, for which I apologize, but the important stuff will be up there. So just by way of background very briefly, Chinook Arch is a member-driven library service organization. And so our principal clientele is your library and your library board. So that we primarily focus on supporting them in delivering library services to the population of Taber and surrounding area. We've been around since 1992. So in the late 80s, southwestern Alberta was the only part of the province that didn't enjoy regional library services. And so there was an initiative started by some library board chairs in the area and some municipal councillors to get regional systems set up. So they went around and did a whole consultation process, talked to councils, talked to library boards, and said, if we were to do this, what would it look like? And as a result, they drafted sort of an initial kind of plan of service and an agreement. And in 1992, 22 councils signed on to that agreement, and that's kind of what brought the system into existence. Since then, we've grown from 22 members up to 41. So now we've attained what we call system completion, so that every municipality that can possibly join the system has now joined. And we were adding members as late as 2021, when Town of Nobleford joined the system. So it means that no matter where you live in southern Alberta, you have access to library services either through your local library or through the library in a neighboring municipality. So, moving on to the next slide. So, as I mentioned, that that initial sort of steering committee that set up the agreement that they drafted is still largely in place. We did have to modify it a little bit a couple of years ago, just in light of the way that there were changes to population, the way population was calculated and published. We had to amend our agreement to reflect that. But generally, what the agreement does is it lays out the responsibility of the library system board versus the local system board. So who's responsible for which aspects of library service. And because it's a very broad agreement, we do a periodic plan of service where we go out and we talk to our clientele, which is, as I mentioned, primarily the local library board, and we say, how can we best support you over the next 4 years? And that's what informs how we deploy our resources in that 4-year period. The plan of service that we're in right now ends at the end of 22. So the Shinnecourage Library Board just approved the new 2023 through 2026 plan of service, and that's that will kind of help us to decide how we're going to invest our resources in the next 4 years. The next slide is on funding and budget. So our annual operating budget is just under, I can see your slide, I can see you're scrolling there, but it looks like maybe, I'm not anywhere on that document at all. So, sorry about that. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, so I'm looking at, the slide here with the little pie chart on it. The big red chunk kind of on the right, that is represents the bulk of our revenue. That is actually member levies. So we are funded by a per capita member levy. Every municipal member pays the same member levy, and so that basically forms a good chunk of our revenue. The big purple chunk on the left is our provincial operating grant, and that's actually one of the main reasons why areas form library systems is it actually brings in a whole extra level of provincial operating money into the system for library services. So that $1 million comes to Shinnecourage, and it is shared essentially. The things we can do with it are shared collaboratively across the system between the libraries. So the levy is arrived at first. The process is typically we do a needs assessment, we develop our plan of service, and at the same time we're developing a proposed budget as well to make sure that we can do the things that we're hoping to do. And then from there we derive our levy. So the levy is a per capita amount. This year it's $776. A couple years ago we actually rolled it back by 5%. And so we've been at $776 for a couple of years. And in order for that levy to change, it actually has to be approved by councils. And I understand that's partly why I'm here tonight, just to talk about that. So in order for the levy to increase, 2/3 of councils representing 2/3 of the total population served have to say that they're okay with that proposed levy schedule. So basically Lethbridge and 26 other member councils is what it takes to make up that sort of component. I'll touch briefly on governance. We are a public library board and we're governed by the Public Libraries Act. And you do, as a member of Shinnecourage, have representation on our board. And your longtime appointee was your chairperson, Carly. And now Councillor McLean is your new appointee to the Shinnecourage board. So she's your liaison between Shinnecourage and your council. I'll discuss very briefly the services we provide to your library. So Shinnecourage, as a library service organization, we focus on things where the services can be readily centralized, where it makes sense to centralize it, where the services can be delivered more effectively and more efficiently, and where economies of scale can be realized. So that's the things that we tend to focus on. The first one of those is Bibliographic Services. So that really relates to anything that appears on your library shelf. So if your local librarian, who I believe is in the room this evening, Chris Fowles, decides that she wants a book or a list of books for the shelf, rather than having to go on Amazon or find a wholesaler to order those books and use a credit card and have it delivered, and then it comes to the library and then she has to catalog it and put the stickers on it, all those kind of administrative kind of non-value added activities. She can simply send us a spreadsheet or a list of titles or call our acquisitions people, and we can order that stuff centrally. So sort of the thing, it makes sense for one person working at Shinnecourage to order 40 copies of a book rather than 40 people at individual libraries ordering one copy. So that's the kind of thing that we do. And it also maximizes your collection dollar as well, because each year we spend just shy of $1 million on library materials because we're purchasing for all of the libraries in the region, and that gets us a really great discount on those materials. So it basically maximizes your local collection dollars, getting about an extra 40% out of that, out of those monies. We want a robust IT network. Technology is very much a part of modern library service. We couldn't do anything without networks and the softwares that we use to run our system. So any software that is involved with the local library, so the system that checks books in and out, library website, network management, so things like firewalls and antivirus and stuff like that. Chinook Arch handles all of that stuff on behalf of your library. So we're actually also the internet service provider for your library, so that means you don't have to go out and find or deal with like a TELUS or Bell or whatever. Chinook Arch provides the internet for your library. And we also manage all of the threat protection and everything like that. And also there's a help desk, so if there's a computer goes down in the library, you can simply call our office, and we have 2 technicians that will come out and fix computers as need be. And again, that means that you don't have the local librarian scrambling to try and find someone who can repair computers and pay them for that service. It's all included in the membership levy. We have 3 librarians on staff, and their whole job is just to help the library managers and library boards with any aspect of library operations. They're all master's degree librarians. They understand the library world. They have previous experience in rural libraries. And so if there's any question that your local librarian or library board chair has about operating libraries, they can just call us, help with collection development, policy development, planning, anything. So that service is there as well. And it's just because it's hard in a smaller community, especially to find library expertise, someone who's had previous experience working in a library or training. So we are able to get them up to speed and provide the training that they need to operate what is, frankly, quite a complex operation. That is the modern library. Even a small library is a complex organization. As you know, people are reading digitally these days, so downloading stuff to their phone, to their iPads or whatever. So we provide that as well, and those services are relatively expensive, so that no individual library in the system could offer those services to their public, but by collaborating, we can actually make a pretty good service of it, and people who do choose to read or listen or watch or whatever can do so because of this, because of the system. The last one is delivery. The last one I'll maybe mention. So if you live in Tabor, the book you want is in Pincher Creek. You can simply place a hold on it, and our vans will go out and bring it to you. You can read it and then bring it back to the Tabor Library, and then we get it back to its home library. So even though every library in the system is independently governed and independently operated, the whole thing kind of basically works like a large multi-branch library system. And so in a given year, we have close to 800,000 items moving around the system from library to library and back. So any questions so far? I've really been cruising through this, but I'm happy to answer questions at the end as well. Okay, I'll just go. So some of the highlights from 2021, we're seeing a recovery from COVID. As you can imagine, COVID had a huge impact on libraries. Libraries are an inherently public building, and so the restrictions and just people's habits have changed in the wake of COVID. And so, but what we've seen is a real flourishing of innovation among the local libraries and library boards as they responded to the situation. And so it's been actually quite inspiring to see what the libraries have done. Innovative ways of delivering services, getting out of the library buildings, curbside pickup and that kind of thing. All different ways to deliver programming. It's been really cool to watch. We do see people returning to the library. We do see usage increasing to almost pre-COVID levels, and I think when we look at our 22 stats, it's going to be pretty close to pre-pandemic levels, which is encouraging to see. Basically, my last slide here is looking forward. I was going to just talk about the new plan of service. So, and that's actually the document that you have up there. So we've got 5 main themes that kind of came out of our consultations with our members. How do we increase foot traffic? That phrase, getting butts back in the library, actually came from someone who was in one of our sessions, and she kind of had a charming Newfie accent, and she's like, got to get butts back into the libraries. I can't do the accent, but anyway, it just kind of stuck, and so so that's one of the things, is using marketing and various other things to get libraries or people back into the libraries. And of course, when people come into the libraries, you want to have something that is that's cool for them to do while they're there. So programming is a big thing of that, a big thing in that sort of vein, offering cool programming for all ages. Libraries have kind of been doing that on their own for a long time, but it takes quite a bit of, obviously, energy and expense sometimes to get programs up and running. So we are hoping to do more of that centrally. Also, the library's expressed an interest in getting out of the library and into the community. So like at fairs and things like that. Can we set up a table? Can we get a book in someone's hand, get them signed up for a card? A lot of people are intimidated coming into a library. It's not a familiar space to them. So if we can meet them in a less threatening place and explain to them what the library's about, give them a book, and then they have to bring it back. So that's how we'll get them. Just continuing to support libraries with changing technology, and also helping the libraries to serve communities of recent immigrants to Canada, which it's always a bit more challenging as well. So, yeah, and to do that, we figured out a small budget. So I'm not sure if you have the. Actually, I can just go back here. Yeah, so this is the proposed levy schedule. So the columns that you're probably most interested in are the ones that's kind of on the left-hand side. So the current levy is $776 per capita. We're proposing small increases over the next 4 years from $793, $809, $822, and then $832, which I will say is still, the $832 is still 9 cents per capita lower than the last levy schedule that the municipalities approved in our last budget cycle. And so we're still not quite making it up from that 5% reduction, but we feel we can work with this. And so that's what we're proposing at this point. And I think that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Heffer. Did anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, I would ask for a motion. Councillor McLean? We're sending it to if that's what you want to do. Your call. Mr. Thibault?
John, did you want to come forward and explain?
Okay.
I worship the Deputy Mayor. I think the motion we have before you here, we are not looking at the actual figure, but the motion, what Council is passing is the total levy annual increase, because this is per capita. So maybe 2023, the population will be X. 2024, the population is X, like that. But what Council is passing now is total proposed levy. So it will be, in 2023, it will be 11.5 per capita. 2024 is 11.66. 2025, 11.79. 2026 is 11.89. So what Council is passing is just the levy schedule that is you have before you, and you'll not see the actual figure. Thank you very much.
If I may just supplement that. So in each municipality, so our levy does have two components. There's the municipal levy, which everybody pays, and then there's also a library board levy for municipalities that operate a library board, which of course Tabor is one of those. And so it varies. We don't change the library board levy. That hasn't changed since I've been at Shinnecock in 15 years. Because of course, if we ask the library board for more money, they're going to come back to you and say, we need more money for our operating budget, and then you will ask why, and you'll say, well, it's to pay Shinnecock. And meanwhile, we're also asking you for more money. So it ends up looking like a bit of a double dipping type of situation, which we don't want to get into. So, but it did, and there are also some cases where the library board pays the library board levy from its provincial operating grants, and there are some municipalities where the municipality pays that fee. So I'm not sure what your traditional arrangement is here in Tabor, but we do include, because we want to be transparent about the total levy, we included it there, and sort of, I guess, kind of hoping that the CAOs would help us sort it out with in each municipality, because it is a little bit of a different arrangement in each municipality. So that's why I kind of focused on the proposed municipal levy, because that's the one that is changing. And the population is actually a good point as well, because as you know, populations have been in a bit of a flux, shall we say, and there's been some brouhaha. And so for our invoicing purposes, it says whatever is the most current population published by Alberta government, regardless of which department. So we've been using the Treasury Board numbers. Right now, the Treasury Board numbers for 2023 are actually lower than 2022. So you would actually see, I mean, unless there are new numbers published before the end of the year, your total increase, if this comes into effect, your total increase for the Chinook fee for 2023 would be about $600. So because there is the, you know, even though there's a small per capita increase, the population is actually going down. And what might happen in 2024, 2025, and 2026, I feel at this point is anybody's guess. Basically, I feel like they're still trying to sort it out and figure out how to do a way to calculate population that makes everybody happy, which obviously they'll never be able to do. But yeah, I think it looks like the days of rural municipalities and smaller urban municipalities using the census numbers and having those numbers stable for 4 years are kind of probably behind us. And I'm not sure why they're going with this system, but it sure caused a lot of confusion. But anyway,
Thanks for the
I hope
clarification.
that helps with a bit of extra info. So,
Okay, it's up to you. Or should I move on to Councillor Rudd? Councillor Rudd?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion, start things off here with, that I make the motion that council requests administration to include an amended amount in the Town of Taber 2023-2026 budget deliberations.
All right. Mr. Tebow, did you have something to add?
I was just going to point out that administration has put forward a recommendation and alternatives, just like our regular council meetings, and so feel free to wander through each one of those, and I think that's what Councillor Rudd has just done.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Heffer. All right. On to item 8.2, Taber and District Chamber of Commerce, Town of Taber 2023-2025 budget consideration. Mr. Tebow?
So I've been given the name of Bruce Workington, is that correct? Perfect. Come present, please. Microphone on. Is there a presentation you want me to wander through, or no? Okay.
You bet. You're good.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Council, for allowing me to come present. I feel like it's been many years I've come to present. It's probably been about a decade already, so it does. Thanks, Councillor Bruin, for pointing that out. Appreciate that. You have, of course, have not aged one day, so. The Taber Chamber of Commerce is the voice of local business in our community. We do events such as the Corn Fest, which was very successful this year. A lot of people enjoyed coming to that, the free family fun festival that we put on, thanks to our generous sponsors. One of the largest free family fun festivals in Western Canada. The Winter Festival, of course, our business awards, where we celebrate local businesses and individuals who have contributed to our community. We run the Tourist Information Center, and our building project is coming to fruition very soon. We're hoping to break ground very soon, I'm told, from our committee chair, our building chair, and of course, COVID has caused delays in many things, including that project. And all things considered, it turned out all right because we were able to be within budget, and hopefully we'll have that building done in the next year or so. So I'm here to present our budget ask of $25,000. That goes to the various things I mentioned, including, I didn't mention the parade that we also put on, and also we have summer students that help with the Tourist Information Center, and those activities are funded by your generous contribution of $25,000. I'll entertain questions related to our budget ask at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Does anybody have any questions? Real talkative bunch tonight. All right. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Bruce, for the presentation. It's kind of a standard presentation you made. You're asking for a little bit more money than previously, but it's okay. I'm prepared to make a motion, Madam Deputy Mayor,
Go ahead.
that council requests administration to include the requested budget amount of $25,000 from the Taber District Chamber of Commerce for consideration in the Town of Taber 23-25 budget deliberations.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you next year.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. All right, on to item 8.3, Tabor Public Library, Town of Tabor 2023-25, budget consideration. Mr. Tebow?
I believe we've got Chris Fowles coming up to present.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Fowles, and I'm the manager of the Tabor Public Library. On behalf of the Tabor Library Board, it is my pleasure to submit our 2023 to 2025 three-year rolling budget to the town of Tabor. I understand that as a council, you must ensure responsible and effective expenditure of all public funds. The town requires value for its money, therefore we must highlight the immeasurable value of our public library. The library is much more than a book lending site. Libraries give people the opportunity to find jobs, explore medical research, experience new ideas, get lost in wonderful stories, while at the same time providing a sense of place for gathering. We offer educational, financial, computer, and physical literacy by running programs to assist and educate all members of the community. It is a safe and welcoming atmosphere for all groups to gather, including the schools, Safe Haven, FCSS, seniors, and we work jointly with Tabor Food Bank to provide for those in need. The library is also one of the only places that offers free access to computers and the internet. We offer a space for other community organizations so they can meet privately at a free or very small fee. We also offer a large outdoor living collection, including snowshoes, life jackets, bike helmets, indoor and outdoor games, metal detectors, exercise accessories, I could go on and on, knitting needles, and a whole lot more. Libraries are more than just books. It's amazing what we have to offer to the citizens of Tabor, and I'm proud to be a part of this organization. 2021 was a challenging year for the library, as it was on every business. We shared our annual report for 2021, indicating our stats for the year. Bear in mind, the library was closed for most of the first part of the year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You will see that 16,815 people walked through our doors in 2021, and in 2022, as of August 31st, there have been 41,475 people who have used the library. We are on track to offer services to over 60,000 patrons by the end of 2022. We have grown immensely with our social media, patron count, library card users, and participants in our programs. We are staffed by a full-time manager and 5 part-time employees. According to best practices, Tabor Public Library should be staffing at a minimum level of 0.5 FTE per 1,000 population, which equals to 5.5 FTE for a hypothesized population of 9,000. We are currently operating at 4.09, but that being said, the library is operating with excellent staff who are able to give the community a friendly atmosphere where everyone is welcome. Every year, the library has grown and improved, meeting the demands of the community. Reduced funding will not meet the needs of the residents. We appreciate the town for the building support and the library's ability to access experts in HR, procurement, and budget. We value those generous offers of assistance and knowledge. We are requesting a 3-year rolling budget for 2023 to 2025 with 2% increase for 2023 and 2024 and a 1% increase for 2025. With the rising costs for essentials, we feel this is a reasonable request with the expectation, according to professionals, that the economy will start to recover in 2024. These monies will cover the expenditures that we need to successfully operate the library and keep the needs of the community met. The library assists the town of Tabor in meeting its goal to enhance the sense of community and mirrors the town of Tabor's mission statement. Please help us to continue our role to meet the informational, educational, recreational, and cultural needs of the community of Tabor.
Thank you, Ms. Fowles. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor McLean.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that Chris is doing a fantastic job being our library manager. She's done a lot. And our library is looking so good and it's doing so well. They offer so many things there. So I am ready to make a motion. Oh, are you ready?
No, I just wanted to add to what you said about what a nice place it is. And, you know, it's really changed. And if you haven't been there, it's a nice place to be. Just go and hang around in there. And you've done a good job. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Chris, you name the number. You expect 40,000 people to go through the doors this year?
60.
60,000. Is that individual? Is that a repeat customer?
It could be repeat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor McLean.
Madam Deputy Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Can I ask a question first, Madam Deputy Mayor?
Certainly, Councillor Rudd.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the business plan that was presented by Chinook Arch, outlining proposed activities and expected outcomes and such. So is that embraced then by our local library here? Will you be putting butts in the library? You'll be doing all those, other than I suppose the technical support, because that's not an expectation on the local library?
Yeah, I think the numbers speak for themselves. Even 16,000 in 6 months, we've done 40,000 in 8 months already. So getting butts back in the library. When I first started, I said, how do we get the teens in here? There was nobody coming. And we did a revamp of the library, and there's no more seating left. I can't get them out now, which is great. I'm not, but it's doing great. We had to hire an extra person in the summer. It was so busy all year. So it's good to see the people coming back.
Great, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I move that council request administration to include the requested budget amounts as presented from Taber Public Library for consideration in the town of Taber 2023 to 2025 budget deliberations.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Fowles. All right, next up, item 8.4, Taber Communities in Bloom, their budget consideration.
Margaret Rombo, is that how you say that correctly? Perfect. Thank you.
Hi. Madam Deputy Mayor and councillors, we don't have all this fancy stuff, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to go through everything today. Ours is very, very basic. Two things. First of all, Taber Communities in Bloom. I think by now everybody knows mostly what we're about. I'd like to suggest that the executive, of which I'm a member, get 100% pay raise this year. Oh, right, we're volunteers, right? Oh, darn. Okay, next thing, this year, we have, or are in the process of doing anyway, but most of it's spent. We have been given $7,500 per year for everything that we do around town, excluding those wages for our staff, and $2,000 to spend on increasing what we do at Christmas time, whether it be lights or Christmas decorations or things. So the Christmas decorations of $2,000 this year. We are also competing nationally this year, and it was $1,000 that part of our budget that we had to pay out just to compete. The judges' tours, when the judges came and did all the judging, This year, they usually get a car, rent a car, and do their own driving. There wasn't a car to be had in Calgary this year. They came the day after the closing of the Calgary Stampede, and there wasn't a thing to be had. So we had to go to Calgary, get them, and after Tabor, they were judging St. Paul, which is up northeast of Edmonton. So we had to take them as far as Hannah. And then the St. Paul people came down and picked them up for the rest of the way. So with their hotel rooms and everything, it cost $800. Our plants this year, our flowers around town and everything that we do, and our fertilizer, plants, everything went up. So we spent $6,000 of that $7,500 this year just on our flowers. We're doing a lot of, or trying to do more every year of using perennials, but we still need the annuals for our pots and everything, and just for the color. And $200 this year was spent on our office supplies and things. So we spent $10,000 already this year, and we get $9,500. So we've used a wee bit of our leftover. We do make a few things, a little bit of money every year on some of our little projects and things that we do. So this year what we're asking for is an increase of $500 per year for the next 3 years in our budget. And the office supplies included a new whip. So I am out there just making everybody do everything that they can for as cheap as they can. So we're just asking for a small increase.
Sounds like a fun group. Thank you, Ms. Rombo. Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, Margaret, when do we expect to hear back from the National Committee?
The decision will come on October 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a Saturday night with the big gala and everything out in Victoria this year. We did make the decision. There were 8 of us that wanted to go this year, but the way things turned out, it was getting a little expensive, and so none of us will be going this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is too bad.
It all boiled down to our lovely national airline, Air Canada, who we have from when we were supposed to go to Fort Mac, and they gave us a credit, and they've lost our file. And so I had to send all the original ticket numbers to them and whatever. That's the only way that you can deal with them. You don't get to talk to anyone. You have to deal with one department. And I got this automatic answer that said that they would be back to us within 45 days. Because we had airfare, they had a 2-day seat sale on, and I jumped on it. Then I spent 2.5 hours on hold to get some fellow in Montreal who could not find our file. It would have cost us an extra $5 per person for the airfare. Regular price right now, going rate, is over $600 per person. And it was just, and then $600 for the convention itself, and so on and so forth and whatever, and it was just getting to be a little
That's
too much.
understandable.
Yes. So we found out competing nationally is totally different than competing provincially, you know, as far as funds and everything goes. So
Good effort.
there's always next year.
Good effort anyway. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Councillor Bruin.
Oh, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. The town's never looked better with the job you ladies do, you people do.
Thank you.
It's amazing, and for a meager $500 more a year, I'd be happy to make the motion that council requests administration to include the requested budget amount of $10,000 from Taber Communities in Bloom for consideration in the Town of Taber 23-25 budget deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bruin. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Ms.
much.
Rambo. All right, on to item number 8.5, Taber Food Bank. Mr. Tebow?
I don't have a name in front of me. Is there someone here to represent the Taber Food Bank? Perfect. Great. Double the pleasure.
I'm Craig Hansen, current president of the Taber Food Bank Board. Just to start the presentation, we definitely thank you for the support we have had in the past, and the food bank runs on the support of the whole community through volunteers, through donations of time, money, and food. In 2021, the food bank distributed 664 hampers. That was to 353, as they call it, unique individuals. Of that, 74 of those were children under 17, 241 were adults, 18 to 64, and 38 of those were seniors. Those hampers equaled 57,000 pounds of food and also 2,300 liters of milk. In addition to the hampers, the food bank, as was mentioned by the library, we support the library, Safe Haven. Food is also given to schools to help in their food programs. And also, beyond the hamper program and that support, we have what we call the pick shelf. And the pick shelf runs on the support of our grocery stores in town. As we get food that is close to that expiry, I mean produce and those things, and that is brought into the food bank, sorted, and individuals can have the opportunity to come in and pick some of that up. In 2021, they ran on appointments based on the COVID situation. We had 2,500 appointments for people to come in and go use that pick shelf. And they gave out an average of 7,700 pounds of food per month through that program, 1,400 liters of milk. And also as part of that pick shelf program, we have volunteers that come in and prepare simple sandwiches, as some people don't have the means to prepare food. And from April to December, they distributed 1,333 sandwiches. So that's just a little history of the food bank for 2021. As I said, we operate on donations and support of others, and we appreciate that. Heather, who is our treasurer, now gets the budget part.
Yeah, so I don't have too much to present for that. I think you guys got a copy of our proposed 2023 through 2025 budget. As you can kind of see from looking at it, I'm not going to go into detail, but we do run mostly on donations from individuals, from corporate sponsors, as well as a few grants and the municipal grant that we get from you guys. We've had about $2,500 every year. So our request is to continue with that $2,500 for 2023, and then if possible to increase that about 5% for 2024 and 2025. As far as I am aware, and I've only been the treasurer for a little over a year and a half, we haven't had any increases from you in many years. So with just increased utilities and costs, we would appreciate that increase, but we're very happy with the $2,500 that you give us. So that is what we're requesting.
Thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I have just a question. So in 2022, we gave you $2,600. Why are we going down? Or it's always just been
I
2,500?
think it's always been 2,500 as far as I've understood, unless.
John, did we give 2,600 last year?
Well, it looks like in between there could be a typo, but I think what you're saying might be right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for our food bank delegation? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Another probably question for you. There's an organization called the Canada Food Bank. There's an Alberta Food Bank organization, I know that. There's also Canada Food Bank. And are you in touch with them at all for some possible granting or some help, or
Yeah,
especially during COVID, right?
Yeah, so we have 4 employees at the food bank, and the manager, so the food bank manager, one of our employees, she's the one that kind of deals with like the food banks Canada and Alberta side of things. So we do have communications with them, and some of our we do get some grants through like Alberta food banks. The Canada one, I think it usually runs from the Canada Food Bank and then goes to Alberta Food Bank, and then Alberta distributes it from there, as far as I understand. So there's definitely, support we get from the kind of national and provincial level for sure.
Councillor Rudd.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. I see firsthand the benefits of the food bank in our community, and commend you for the work that gets done. And I also see firsthand the amount of support you get on food drives and the like. And Tabor's a very giving place and done well there. So with that, I would propose to make a motion, Madam Deputy Mayor, and I make a motion the council requests administration to include an amended amount in the Town of Tabor 2023-2025 budget deliberations in favor of the food bank.
Thank you, Councillor Rudd. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Ms. McCoy. Right. Item 8.6, we have the Tabor and District Handy Bus Association. I see Mr. Primo here.
That's the name I have, yes, Paul Primo.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Primo.
I don't know if this is working. Looks like it is.
You are good to go.
I have a presentation. I don't know if it. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, there's only a few slides. My name's Paul Primo. I represent the Handy Bus in Tabor District Handy Bus, the Tabor and District Handy Bus Association. I recognize lots of people here I've worked with in the past from the board. We have a couple of guys that we're working with right now. I think know what's going on here. So the next slide, please. This is we have our members well represented. Edmund Zazier, he's been one of our longest serving people. Kevin Leahay, Garth Breckring, Alf, Tamara, Brian, Peter Rosendahl, Krista Douglas, Paul Primo, Dale Lang, and Ken Molina are our drivers, and that's the association right there. We represent the community quite well with a good cross-section of peoples. Just next slide, please. Just a little bit about our bus. You've seen it running around town here. It's a 2018 Chevy Transit built for purpose bus. We bought it brand new. Has a 4500 chassis, a full folder heated ramp. So the ramp folds like this, like an accordion, and it's heated. So during the wintertime when people are walking on there and they get the mud on or snow on there, it melts down, so that's good traction for them.
It's Q restrained and equipped, meaning that we can handle wheelchairs or other kind of devices. We can transport 3 wheelchairs with 3 attendants safely, or 14 seated riders. There's about 90,000 kilometers on the bus now. We save about $8,000 a year in a restricted account for bus replacement. The original bus cost about the replacement is about 160 to 180,000 bucks, and the original bus was 147,000. So a very expensive investment that we have in town running around. So next slide, please. I have a budget cycle here, and so what we have going on here, just if I can just take a look. When we finished our budget from the year before, so we came in this year about 193,000. So just take a look at this budget here. These are the wrong numbers up there. Yeah, scroll to the top, please, sir. Yeah, these numbers are from 20, 21, and 22. So I must have had the wrong numbers in my budget there. So I apologize for that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. See, let's stop with this slide right here. We'll talk these impacts. I apologize for that. So during our budget cycle from 2020 to 2022, COVID-19 was a large impact, just like everybody else did. So most of 2020 was under COVID protocols, all of 21 was under protocol, and 22 has been under protocol just lately. So what is our protocols is that we had 1 rider at a time on the bus. So the sanitation and disinfecting the bus between rides. The handy bus drivers were mandated for PPE requirements, encouraged masking with other PPE for all the riders, and we were an advocate for personal safety during this COVID. So when people were jumping on the bus, we had signs, we had literature, and we were trying to educate our people on the dangers of COVID and why it was important to try to do something to protect themselves and the guy in the seat beside you. So our board at that time, they gave us direction that they wanted us to, if possible, manage the risk. So they wanted us to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And so for those 3 years that we had COVID, 0 man hours was lost due to COVID. During those 3 years, there was 0 evidence of community transmission of COVID-19 through the bus. And Alberta Health Services never called us up one time to tell us that we were the people that were transporting sick people. So from our previous board and their directive to manage the risk, that's what we did. So if we go to the next slide, though, there's a price to pay for conservatism. So prior to this, if you take a look at this slide here, about 400 to 600, depending on the month, is what we would normally do on a normal year per month. And so when COVID started happening, this is 20-month run from the January 21st to August 2022, you can see that we just dropped right down to about 150 riders. And from that time, we kind of bounced up and down. But I'd like to draw your attention here to this right here. This is the new year. This is the new year. And so at that time, during the new year, the government came in and said, oh, we have another wave coming. I think it was 7th, 8th, or not, I don't know which wave. It was a big wave coming anyways. And so you can see what happens to the handy bus. Boom. What I want to draw attention to is the speed in which we're coming out of this curve in comparison to the speed in which we come out of the first curve. Our people are returning to the bus quicker. And it's very hard for elderly people to return to the bus when everything about COVID was, it's going to come to you, it's coming to you. So our biggest challenge was to try to convince our riders that it's safe to be in the bus. And we were able to do that with our mandate for the last couple of years. So the next slide, please. Another, this is a major metric for us, is our loss control. So during 2020, 2021, 2022, we had 0 traffic accidents. We had 1 traffic ticket. That was a speeder, and it was a disciplinary letter to file, and the driver pays for his own ticket. we had 3 community calls. And these were calls that were people, the handy bus was observed speeding up the MD hill, which is pretty well impossible. So we never did go down that way. We don't even go that way. As it turns out, they were working on that solar farm out there, and a lot of people were driving back and forth, and they were the speeders. We had a call that was a negative interaction between a rider and a client, which it happens. A lot of our clients are sometimes cantankerous, and sometimes our drivers are. So, and also we received a call as to why the bus was out of town. So we try to service the MD as best we can. We have 3 riders that come from the MD. It's extremely difficult for us. Every time that we leave the MD and we're gone for an hour, that's 6 rides that we miss. So we're able to service 1 person, but receive 6 calls from other people that say, what's going on? So for our bus, in the last 3 years, our downtime was 0 days. Budget cycle. So this is the more accurate number here that we've got going on. I see it's kind of hard to see that. If we could make that just maybe a bit smaller. We finished the year here with a number of around $193,000. And in 2023, we're going to ask for 207 is what we're going to come in and kind of go from there. So what we have here is we have our biggest driver is the wages. We have 2 drivers and a safety officer. And between them, they command those wages. And our total manpower, you can see as it goes up. Our drivers make $25 an hour right now. And the admin guy makes $28 an hour if this budget is approved. So the idea is that our guys are running around on from Monday to Friday. They work 10 hours a day. We used to run the bus on Saturday, but we didn't when COVID happened. We're now looking at whether it is feasible to run the bus again. We ran it for 4 hours on Saturday in the past, but we only had 4 or 5 rides compared to the 4 or 5 hours of wages that we had to pay. So we didn't run the bus during COVID on the weekend, but it's something that the board is looking into now. Our fuel bill for the bus, if you can take a look, we actually came in less. You know, this budget was less. We're going to come in this year right around $150,000 as opposed to $190,000. But mostly because the fuel is up and down. Our maintenance was crazy. We thought that we were going to see a lot of maintenance on that bus, but the bus has proven to be very reliable. The ramp is just starting to give us problems now, and each problem with the ramp has to be, we just can't fix the ramp. You have to use the proper parts from the manufacturer, has to be installed by a licensed guy. Everything to do with the handy bus. At one time I used to do the maintenance on it, but not anymore. So our consideration for the next 3 years, if we look down there, is that our total expenses would be $207,000, and then in the next 3 years we'd end off at $222,000. During that time, we anticipate that we are going to transport somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 people a year for the next 3 years. So that kind of concludes the budget presentation for your consideration. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Primo. Councillor Bruin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you go back to the last slide you're looking at there, just up one right there, I see the MD is charging you $12,000 a year for storing the bus in the barn?
Well, it comes on and off it. So they give us an in-kind donation of $1,000 a month that we use for a shop that they supply to us.
In-kind donation.
Yes.
So then I go up to the top here where the MD in the budget cycle, that 19,000, part of that is in-kind donation of 12.
Correct. So in-kind of 12 for the bus barn and $7,000 cash.
Okay, thank you.
Again, we try to service the MD. It's very hard. We have a rider on the Barnwell. We have 2 riders in Barnwell, and we have 1 rider that is on the correction line to the north of town.
Mm-hmm.
So we charge those people $8 a ride or $16 a day, as opposed to the $4 that we would charge people from around town. But again, the biggest problem we're dealing with our out-of-town runs is the time the bus is out of town.
We don't, do we still have the old bus?
No, we don't. We sold the old bus.
Sold the old bus, okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion. Councillor Brun?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make the motion that council requests administration to include the requested budget amounts of $138,700 for 2023, $145,750 for 24, $153,084 for 2025 from the Taber District for the Taber and District County Bus Association for the consideration in the town 2023 to 2025 budget deliberations.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you,
Thanks
Mr.
very
Primo.
much.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, item 8.7, we have the Taber Irrigation Impact Museum.
And I think a few of us know Brenda Pine, who will come up and give us a presentation.
A few of us know who you are. Full disclosure, this is my mom.
Yes.
Mrs. Pine.
Deputy Mayor, councillors, and administration, thank you for having me here. Can you hear me okay? My name's Brenda Pine. I'm the relatively new. This is my first year being the manager at the Taber Irrigation Impact Museum. And I don't have a nice slideshow unless we have an overhead projector. That's how old I am. So I have a budget thing here. If you guys wanna, there's no way to get it up there. Okay. I'll tell you what we do really shortly. Weekly, we index the Taber Times newspaper and the local obituaries for future researchers coming to find stuff. We maintain a Facebook page, and we connect with the You Grew Up in Taber If page. So we answer research questions that come in via the phone, emails, Facebook, and some people just walk in the door wanting to know about their grandpa that lived here in 1905. So eventually we can find that stuff for them. We do tour groups. We've had 5 school classes in the spring. Communities in Bloom came through, and just then visitors. We do static exhibits and presentations. We did them at the library. That's where we were asked to. We can go anywhere. We index artifacts and archives relevant to Taber area that people choose to donate. So, and our fundraising includes 2 tables at the Christmas Jingle yearly and the Lethbridge Casino every 3 to 4 years. And that's all done by the board, and the casino by the board, and anyone else we can get to volunteer. So our new projects this past year have been, we scanned our Taber Times microfilm that goes, it's 109 years worth of Taber Times, and it was on microfilm, and we rented a scanner and scanned it all onto a digital format. So that's a step in the right direction. We also have started doing podcasts of local people, started in May. There's 12 been done, 6 have been published, and that's been done by one of our board members. This year we're partnering with the Lethbridge College students in the Information Technology Department, or classes. Just met with them last week. They'll be working with us from September to April, and they will be doing a school project with us, putting our information into databases that are more publicly accessible. Right now they're in Excel, so I can get at them and people can come in, but hopefully it'll be more accessible to the public. And we are planning to possibly paint, freshen up, redesign the museum's interior. And I guess, fortunately, the numbers are up there, but I figured them out again. So with a 3% increase per year, that's what we're asking for. And this is Barb, our board chairman.
Okay, we have just supplied, what was the company in Calgary? Anyway,
Oh, yes.
Warren.
No history. I had that
Yeah,
in my
no.
notes. No, as in K-N-O-W. No history.
For World War II, that the town has asked them for, and so then they had to come down and get it from us. Where town could have come to us. I don't, but we have supplied them with all the pictures that we have.
All the newspaper stuff.
And the pictures on the garbage cans in town have all come from the museum as well.
Good. It was in my notes, but I was trying to keep it. So I just took the tops, but that's an important one, yeah. So that's about all I have to tell you.
Excellent. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Brune.
I have no questions. I'd like to thank for the presentation. I think the museum is a very valuable resource for the town. I think it's very important to remember our history, so sometimes history may not repeat itself. I'd also like to make the motion now at this time that council requests administration to include the requested budget amounts of $16,465 for 2023, $16,958 for 95 cents for 2024, and $17,467.72 for 2025 from the Tabor Irrigation Impact Museum for consideration in the town of Tabor 2023 and 2025 budget deliberations.
Thank you, Councillor Brune. Motion on the table. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Brenda, do you get any money from the MD of Tabor?
We do.
How much?
We used to get 6,000, but the last couple of years, we've only gotten 5,000 from them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There is a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you
Thank you, Ms.
very
Pine.
much.
Ms. Pearson.
Ice cream. I'm going for ice cream.
You're all done.
I'd make your daughter buy.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. That concludes our delegations for the evening. Do we have any media inquiries?
None to speak of.
Excellent. With that, I would just ask for a motion to close the meeting. Councillor Brune.
I'd like to make a motion, we close the meeting.
Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously.